Detective James stared at the iPad screen, his jaw tightening. The security footage showed 16-year-old Sarah mixing something into her father's fiancée's drink at their engagement party. 3 hours later, Rose was fighting for her life in Lagos University Teaching Hospital. If only Michael knew what his precious daughter had done. But that was just the beginning of a story that had started months earlier. Sarah sat in her father's penthouse at Victoria Island, Lagos, gazing at the sunset over the Atlantic Ocean. At 16, she had everything money could buy: designer clothes, the latest iPhone, and a platinum credit card. But what she treasured most was her father's undivided attention. Mike Williams was Lagos's most eligible bachelor at 45. After losing his wife during childbirth, he had channeled all his love and energy into two things: his daughter Sarah and his tech company, Nigersoft Solutions. Under his leadership, Nigersoft had grown into West Africa's largest financial technology company, making him one of Nigeria's youngest billionaires. Their life was perfect until that Sunday afternoon when her father returned from church with news that shattered Sarah's world. "Sarah, baby," he said, using her nickname, "I want you to meet someone special." Sarah looked up from her phone to see an elegant woman in a yellow Ankara dress standing beside her father. Her heart stopped. "This is Jennifer. She's the new head of our corporate social responsibility department." Jennifer smiled warmly, her gap tooth showing. "Your father has told me so much about you, Sarah." Sarah forced a smile, but her mind was already racing. She had seen this pattern before with her friends' parents: a single successful man meets a professional woman, and before you know it, the daughter becomes second place. "Nice to meet you, Ma," she replied, her voice sweet as honey but her heart cold as ice. Over the next few weeks, Jennifer became a regular visitor. She was everything Sarah feared: smart, beautiful, and worst of all, genuinely kind. But Sarah noticed how her father's eyes lingered on Jennifer, how he laughed more freely around her, and how he had started coming home earlier from work. One evening, while scrolling through Instagram, Sarah discovered Jennifer had a food allergy. It was right there on her profile, a post advocating for better labeling of seafood in Nigerian restaurants. A plan formed in Sarah's mind. The following weekend, when Jennifer came over for dinner, Sarah insisted on helping the house staff prepare the meal. She secretly added dried crayfish powder to Jennifer's jollof rice. Within minutes of eating, Jennifer's face began to swell. The reaction was severe enough to require hospitalization, but not life-threatening, exactly as Sarah had planned. At the hospital, Michael was furious. How could the cook be so careless? "You know Jennifer is allergic to seafood." The cook, Mrs. Mary, who had served their family for 10 years, swore she hadn't used any seafood. She was fired the next day. Sarah watched silently as Jennifer, still recovering, ended things with her father, fearing for her safety in a household that couldn't guarantee her well-being. Sarah had won the first battle, but the war wasn't over. 3 months later, Michael met Grace at a tech conference in Abuja. She was a successful startup founder from the East, with an MBA from Harvard. This time, Sarah changed tactics. Using her computer skills learned from years of watching her father, she hacked into Grace's company's financial records. A few carefully placed discrepancies, and soon there were whispers of fraud. When the Securities and Exchange Commission announced an investigation into Grace's company, Michael distanced himself to protect Nigersoft's reputation. Sarah consoled her heartbroken father while silently celebrating another victory. But Rose was different. She walked into their lives like a force of nature, with her infectious laugh and sharp mind. As Nigeria's youngest female bank CEO, she was Michael's equal in every way. More threatening still, she had a daughter Sarah's age and knew all the tricks. When Michael proposed after 6 months of dating, Sarah realized she needed to act fast. The engagement party at Federal Palace Hotel was her last chance. She had stolen a harmful substance from her school's chemistry lab, intending to make Rose sick enough to miss the wedding but not cause permanent damage. What Sarah didn't know was that the hotel's new security system recorded everything. Now, as Detective James reviewed the footage, Sarah sat in her father's hospital suite, watching him hold Rose's hand. Despite the poison, Rose had survived, but the investigation was uncovering everything: the seafood incident, the corporate sabotage, all of it. "Sir," Detective James said, entering the room. "We need to talk about your daughter." Michael looked at Sarah, his eyes filled not with anger, but with devastating disappointment. "Why, Sarah? Your mother would be so ashamed." The words hit harder than any punishment could. For the first time, Sarah saw herself through others' eyes, not as a daughter protecting her father, but as a criminal who had hurt innocent people. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears flowing. "I just didn't want to lose you, Daddy." "Lose me?" Michael's voice cracked. "Sarah, giving love to others doesn't mean I have less for you. Your mother's last words were making me promise to love enough for both of us. I thought I was keeping that promise, but maybe I loved you so much that I couldn't see what you were becoming." Rose, who had been silent until now, spoke up weakly from her hospital bed. "We can change the past, but we can choose our future." She turned to Sarah. "I understand fear. When I lost my husband, I thought I'd never let anyone else in. But love multiplies, it doesn't divide." The consequences were severe. Sarah was sent to juvenile detention for 6 months, followed by mandatory therapy. Her father sold their penthouse, saying they needed a fresh start. But it was in losing everything that Sarah finally understood what she had failed to see before. During her time in detention, she met other girls from wealthy homes who had acted out in different ways. Her therapist helped her understand that her fear of abandonment had turned her into someone she never wanted to be. She wrote letters to Jennifer, to Mrs. Mary, to Grace, and especially to Rose, taking responsibility for her actions. 1 year later, Sarah stood as bridesmaid at her father and Rose's wedding. It wasn't easy. There were still moments of jealousy and adjustment. But as she watched her father dance with his new wife, she felt something she hadn't expected: peace. That evening, Rose handed her a small box. Inside was a key to their new home. "Your father wanted you to have this," Rose said. "It's your room key. No matter what happens, you'll always have a place with us." Sarah fingered the key, remembering how she had once tried to lock others out of her father's life. Now she understood, love wasn't a locked room with limited space, but an open house with room for everyone. As guests danced to Burna Boy's latest hit, Sarah watched her expanded family, her father and Rose, her stepsister who was now her closest friend, Mrs. Mary who had been rehired and was serving small chops to guests, even Jennifer who had come with her new husband. She thought about the iPad footage that had exposed her crimes, and realized that the real evidence of her guilt had always been in plain sight, in the hurt she had caused to people who only wanted to love her father. Detective James was there too, as a guest this time. He raised his glass to her from across the room. His investigation had led not to her destruction, but to her redemption. If only he knew where the smiles had come from, not from winning or losing, but from finally learning that love was never a competition to begin with. Share your thoughts about this story in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more exciting stories from the heart of Africa.